Hello, hello. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about using or finding text evidence. So first, let's look at by using a marker or a highlighter or a crayon or a colored pencil what it means when you find text evidence. Okay, thank you, Emma, for getting that out. So using text evidence is basically quoting and paraphrasing exactly from the text, so from the story. So today from our story would be Island of Sorrow. Okay, so this one. So it says, eyes on your paper. Thank you, Emma. Sophie, put your mask up. Eyes on your paper, which is this one. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Merly. Sophie, eyes on this one, okay? When you write about something you have read, so you need to be supporting, you need to use supporting evidence or text evidence. So those are two different ways to say it. To be able to back up whatever point you are making. Most of your evidence will be details from the text you are writing about, which you can quote, which means you copy it exactly how it is on here, and you use quotation marks. Or you can paraphrase it, which means that you're saying the same thing but using your own words, okay? So a direct quotation. A quotation is an exact copy of the words the author or speaker uses. Surround a direct quotation with quotation marks. So show me what quotation marks look like with your hands. Good, Alejandro. Right? So if like I had words right here, the quotation marks would be hanging up here. Okay? Paraphrase. Sophie, eyes on your paper. Marley, eyes on your paper. Thank you, Thomas. Sophie, eyes on your paper. Thank you. Marley, ready? Okay, paraphrase. To paraphrase is to put something written or spoken by someone else into your own words. A paraphrase is not surrounded by quotation marks. So a reminder, with quotations and paraphrases, always tell your readers where your information comes from. Okay, so here's an example. Let's read it through, and then where it says a paraphrase or a direct quote, you're going to highlight it, okay? So I'm going to use just one of my markers to underline it. Ever wonder what it takes to be a competitive eater? Just ask Joey Chestnut, 8-time winner of Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Joey, who once ate 69 hot dogs in 10 minutes, told Eat Magazine that being a competitive eater is all about finding your rhythm and getting your hands, mouth, throat, and stomach all working together. This section right here, what was that? A paraphrase or a quote? It was a paraphrase. It says right here, it's a paraphrase. Because our writer is saying that Joey told Eat Magazine, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So he's saying what Joey said, but using the writer's own words, okay? So highlight that, please, on your paper. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Thomas, for getting one out. Thank you, Sophie. Right here. So it says, told Eat It Magazine that being a competitive eater is all about finding your rhythm and getting your hands, mouth, throat, and stomach all working together. Yeah, but you're doing it too. So you can see it better. Marley, did you do it? I see more work on your Chromebook than your paper, which you should not be doing any work on your Chromebook yet. Thank you, Merlin. Thank you, Alejandro. Okay, so now back over here to having. Having been a competitive eater for almost 10 years now, Joey knows what works. Quotation marks. Jump up and down a little bit. Quotation marks. Joey advises. Quotation marks. It helps the food settle to the bottom of your stomach. Quotation marks. Oh, and don't forget the Pepto-Bismol. Okay, so this section right here, is that a paraphrase or a direct quote? A direct quote. It is a direct quote because it has the quotation marks, because that is exactly what Joey said about competitive eating. So highlight that, and I want you to circle where you found the quotation marks. So you should have 4 circled quotation marks. I would too. Okay, so now I want you to look for the part in the direct quote down here. I want you to look for the part where it stated where the information came from. So how do we know that Joey said that? What words did the writer use?
She jumps down and up her Joey divides up.
But that's the whole quote. But what words did the writer use that lets you know that Joey said that? It says Joey what?
Joey advises.
Joey advises. Okay, so put a square around that. Joey advises. Put a rectangle around that. Okay, so this is kind of like when you're writing and you said, Mrs. Tapia said, da-da-da said, Emma said. This is just another, this is a different word for said. So instead of said, they said advises. So like Joey advised and he said these exact words, okay? All right, now let's go on to our worksheet. Finding text evidence, okay? So you have the option of doing it on your Chromebook. Those of you here in class, you have the option of flipping your page and writing it on here, okay? Your choice. But you have to have one of them done. Okay, finding text evidence. All right, so let me erase this. Okay, it says directions. You always want to read the instructions, the directions first, okay? You okay, Thomas?
No.
What's wrong? Your stomach hurts? Okay, that's a good idea. Drink some water and see if it'll help. Directions. Read Island of Sorrow. We already did that. Then complete the activity below. Okay. Number 1, ready? Choose 2 pieces of text evidence from Island of Sorrow that best support the statement below. The statement is in the bubble, okay? So the statement says what? Everybody read it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good, thank you. So Salvador is determined and resilient. So now we need to find 2 pieces of text evidence from here that will support this. So it connects to this, okay? Who wants to read A?
I will.
Thomas.
Each says.
Yes, ma'am.
Even when school reopened after he kept working, sending texts and making interruptions and common self-service.
Okay. So is this a text evidence that connects with explaining that Salvador is determined and resilient? Okay, could be. Let your mouse fun. Okay, who wants to read B? Thank you, Thomas, for reading. Sophie. Wait, where are you? B says we were in a. Are you on the right page? We're on number 1.
We were in this state of crisis. So we were confused.
Okay, does this piece connect to and explain how Salvador is determined and resilient? No, I mean, it tells us that the island was in crisis. Okay, so do you agree we should cross that one out? Okay, let's cross that one out. Okay, who wants to read C? Noah?
Salvador would not surrender to despair. He would do something.
Page 8. So this is saying this is where you can find it. Okay. Does this statement, this text evidence, connect to and explain how Salvador is determined and resilient? Yes, sounds like it. Okay, so maybe that one. D, who wants to read D? Sophie?
To me, the sun is setting and hope leaving Salvador.
To me, that sun setting was hope leaving, Salvador says. Okay, does this connect to and show that Salvador is determined and resilient? Not really. Not really. I don't feel confident in this one either, so I'm going to go more with crossing it out. Okay, so that left us 2, and we should have 2 answers, right? So do you agree and are confident with choosing A and C? Yep, okay, let's do it. So you can circle the whole thing on your class kick assignment. Quickly. Yes. Or you can just like put a checkbox, try it in, whatever works for you, okay? And then we're moving on to number 2. Ledger, take your foot off, please. Number 2. Okay, number 2, ready? Got it? All right. Number 2. Noah?
The island is part of the U.S., but is not state.
Okay. Number 2B. Sophie, turn around. Number 2B. Millions of visitors flock to Puerto Rico every year to enjoy the sandy beaches, sweeping mountains, and lush rainforests.
Yes.
C, he went to school and swim practice and loved wandering through the cobblestone streets of Old San Juan, taking photographs of the beautiful churches and bright turquoise and pink houses that had stood for centuries. Okay, so what's the statement? The statement is
Puerto Rico is a popular tourist destination.
Puerto Rico is a popular tourist destination. A popular tourist destination is usually a place that's beautiful and has a lot of fun things to do, right? Okay. So choose one piece of text evidence that supports, so A, B, or C, the statement below. Then complete the sentence down here to explain your choice, okay? Okay, so A, does this explain why Puerto Rico would be a popular tourist destination? No, so let's cross it out. B, oh, B, millions of visitors flock to Puerto Rico every year to enjoy the sandy beaches, sweeping mountains, and lush rainforests. Maybe.
Yes, B.
C, he went to school and swim practiced, and he loved wandering through the cobblestone streets of Old San Juan, taking photographs of the beautiful churches and bright turquoise and pink houses that had stood for centuries. Okay, what do you think? C? B? C or B? What do you think?
C.
Okay, I hear two people say, I heard three people say B, one person said C. B? I mean, I feel like this kind of depends on your personal preference of where you would want to go and explore other places.
C is
Good. C is mostly just explaining Salvador's daily walk around his neighborhood, right? B is more of when you go on vacation, millions of visitors flock to Puerto Rico for sandy beaches, sweeping mountains, and lush rainforests. So this one is more specific because it says millions of visitors. If a place is having millions of visitors, it's definitely a popular tourist destination. Okay, so let's go with B, sorry. Highlight it on your assignment, or circle it, or check mark it, whichever one you want. Okay? And now let's put it together, okay? So on the bottom it says, I chose blank because blank. So what did we choose? B. So I chose B because so why did we choose B? Ledger?
because it said millions of visitors flock to Puerto Rico every year to enjoy the sandy beaches, sweeping mountains,
Good. So because it explains millions of visitors. I'm going to use quotation marks because it explains millions of visitors. That's what I would use. You could also say because it explains Puerto Rico has beautiful sandy beaches, sweeping mountains, and lush rainforests. Either one works, okay? So here I used quotation marks because these three words are exactly in the exact same order right here. Okay, write it, type it in, or write it on your paper. Dylan, number 2. On this one. So this one, flip it over to this side. Number 2. Dylan, you can do that later, quickly. Good. Okay, so number 1 was A and C. Quickly, A and C. Nope, pencil. A and C. Thank you. Quickly. Number 2, B. And then number 2, B. You got it? Okay. Next one, number 3. Ready? Number 3. Oh, I gave you plenty of time, so come on. Number 3. Okay, below. Dylan, are you on number 3? So next slide. Thank you. Below are a statement and two pieces of supporting evidence. Find one more piece of supporting evidence from the article and write it in the lines below down here. Okay, so you're going to need to pull up your article. The first one says it's on page 5. The second one says it's on page 7. So I'm going to already start by looking at page 5 through 7. So that's this page. So now, let's read the statement, okay? Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage in Puerto Rico. Okay, who wants to read text evidence A? Dylan? Atomic. Okay. The clicking. Okay, so this is the first text evidence to explain that Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage in Puerto Rico. This is supporting this. B, according to one survivor, houses looked like islands in a muddy lake. Okay, now go through and read through. Maybe you remember from yesterday key details that we used that explained why Hurricane Maria was so strong and destructive. So look for where it is on, or reread and look for one, and find the page. Give me a thumbs up when you found another one. Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage. What is some more evidence of that it caused extensive damage? So you should be looking at your story, not giving me blank stares. Sophie, pull out your story. Not your story. Thank you. Ledger, what are you thinking? Oh, you want ice? Start reading. I'm going to wait for you. I'm not going to give it to you. Dylan, start reading. I like Noah's thinking face. Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage in Puerto Rico. So what's another detail that shows that this hurricane was really, really bad? Yeah, but that's already a text evidence here. We need to find another one. So these two are already ones.
Because he said according to
Yeah, that's another text evidence. Our job is to find the third one and fill it in right here. Okay? Okay, I'm going to start rereading. Give me a thumbs up when you think you've heard one or read one that would fit in. Okay, I'm on page 5. But now that life was gone, the day before September 20th, 2017, Hurricane Maria had hit the island. To Salvador, it looked like an atomic bomb had been dropped. The streets were filled with fallen power lines, wrecked cars, and collapsed buildings. Homes were flooded with dirty water. Trees had been snapped in half or ripped from the ground. Puerto Rico was in ruins. There was no electricity, No lights, no cell phone service, no internet, no way to contact loved ones and find out if they were okay. That evening at the sunset, Salvador watched the island go dark. A feeling of hopelessness crept over him. He imagined people in the pitch black night stumbling around the broken shells of their homes. What if they fell? What if no hospitals? What if, with hospitals barely operating and no one to call for help? What would happen to them? To me, the sun setting was hope leaving, Salvador says. But what could he do? A unique place. Puerto Rico is about 1,000 miles southeast of Florida. The island is famous for its beauty, but it's part of the U.S. It's part of the U.S., but it is not a state. It is what is known as a territory. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. They follow U.S. laws and elect members of their own government, but they cannot vote in presidential elections. In Congress, they have one representative who cannot vote on laws. Yeah, I don't think that's going to have to do with it because that's all talking about what Puerto Rico looked like before the hurricane. We need to look at what Puerto Rico looked like after the hurricane. So let's see, the hurricane's wrath. I think that might have some parts. Oh, what about state of crisis? I think that might have some more parts. So let's look at page 7, state of crisis subheading. Page 7. Page 7. Thank you, Dylan and Noah. Page 7. Thank you, Emma. Page 7, Sophie and Merle. Page 7. Thank you. Oh, that's okay. State of crisis. Cleaning up after a hurricane of Maria's magnitude would have been daunting for any community. But there were special challenges in Puerto Rico. The island has high levels of poverty. At the time of the hurricane, Puerto Rico was bankrupt. Much of the island's infrastructure was extremely old and didn't work well. The power grid, the network of power plants that produce electricity, and all the power lines that carry that electricity to people had not been upgraded in decades. The island had stood little chance against the storm. After the storm, there was virtually no power on the island. Refrigerators and freezers stopped humming, and the food inside rotted. Gas pumps didn't work, so cars and trucks couldn't be refueled. ATMs became useless, so no one could get cash. Without electricity, hospitals had to run on generators, but many generators had been ruined by the storm. Many patients died because the machines keeping them alive no longer worked. Then there was the problem of water. Without power, water could not be pumped to people's faucets, toilets could not be flushed, sewers stopped working. Human waste flowed through waterways. In the days after the storm, Salvador had many questions. When would school open? When would power be restored? When would phones work with no food in grocery stores? How would his family eat after their food ran out? What would happen if he were to have an asthma attack? With hospitals barely operating and no open pharmacies, what would he do? Still, Salvador felt lucky. He and his family were alive. And their apartment, though damaged, was safe to live in. He began listening to reports on the radio about what was going on across the rest of the island. He heard stories of destroyed villages and of families losing all their belongings. There were stories of people who had no food to eat and no water to drink. Hundreds were dying because they could not get the help they needed. We're in a state of crisis, Salvador says. I thought at least I am safe here, but just imagine people who live in wooden homes or have zinc, light metal roofs. Zinc is a light metal, kind of like aluminum, which would be the first to blow up. It was scary thinking about what other people were going through. I'm going to stop right there. Has anybody thought? What is one more text evidence that explains and that supports that Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage in Puerto Rico?
1/3 of people died because they lost their
Okay, and we need to find what page that was on. Sophie, turn around. While talking to Thomas. Okay. Do you remember what page it says on? Go on, put it away or I'm going to take it away. What page is it on where it says hundreds of people died? Or maybe does it say anything about their homes? It says here houses look like islands in a muddy lake. What about on page 6? The hurricane's wrath. The winds blew across the island at more than 150 miles per hour. They snapped trees and telephone poles. Roofs were torn away. Windows shattered. Tree trunks flew through the air. Does that give you a picture of Hurricane Maria causing a lot of damage? Yes. So should we use that one? Yes. Okay. Okay, so we would use quotation marks because these are exact words from the text. So quotation marks. On page 6. They snapped start typing. They snapped trees and telephone poles. Period. Roofs were torn away. You should be looking at page 6 on your story. Period. Windows shattered. Period. Tree trunks flew through the air. period, quotation marks. And then we need to state where we found that at. So it would be parenthesis, P for page, period, and then put in the number of the page that we found it on.
Page 6.
Thank you, Noah. 6, parentheses.
This Tapio,
Yes, Thomas?
you think all the time the tourists were on the island?
Tourists? No, all the tourists had to leave the island as soon as they knew that it was coming.
What did that that lived there? And they leave more. They could.
Sophie, that was in the story.
They did. Some people did, some people didn't.
We read about it like 3 times, Sophie. So if you want to figure it out, you need to reread the story. Okay, got it? Then let's move on to 4. Dylan, did you type it all in? Because I'm going to erase in like 15 seconds. No, well, you can write it or you can type it. Which one are you doing? You're going to write it, Kevin. Close your Chromebook so you don't get distracted. Close your Chromebook. Emma, you got it? Okay, start reading number 4. Read the lines below from the article, then write a statement that they all support.
Why do I need to support you? I'm supporting me.
Marley, please, no complaining about it.
About you're okay.
Okay, number 4. Okay, read the lines below from the article, then write a statement that they all support here. Okay, so A, everybody read it together. Ready? Number 4, ready? Okay, begin. At the time of the hurricane, Puerto Rico was bankrupt. Its economy failed. B, much of the island's infrastructure was ancient and in despair. C, the power grid, that is the network of power plants that produce electricity and all the power lines that carry that electricity to people, hadn't been upgraded in decades. Okay, what are all these 3 things explaining? Do you agree with Merle? These are all things that happened to Puerto Rico after the hurricane?
During and after.
During the hurricane?
And after.
After the hurricane?
I think during. Because the hurricane happens in
During the hurricane?
Yeah. I heard the hurricane stopped and then everybody just stopped. During. When the hurricane?
So were all of these things already happening before the hurricane?
Well, the infrastructure was old.
Yeah, so it was already old before the hurricane. Okay, the economy was failing before the hurricane.
Wait, isn't economy jobs?
The power grid hadn't been upgraded in decades before the hurricane. So these are all things that are happening when?
Today.
No, that happened before the hurricane. Okay? So what are all these things saying? You need to come up with your own statement. Number 4. I can wait. Come on, we need to think about this together. I can't just give you answers. So we know all of these things were before the hurricane. So our statement is going to have to do with something about Puerto Rico and something about before the hurricane. Or something about why Puerto Rico was affected so badly. Why? Right?
And then they had that metal.
Yeah, so these are the reasons. These are the text evidence. We need to come up with a statement that fits all 3 of these things. So like on the last one, number 3, it said Hurricane Maria caused extensive damage in Puerto Rico. So all of these 3 things are talking about Puerto Rico, right? Okay, so can our sentence start with Puerto Rico? Okay, Puerto Rico. Write it down, or type it, or write it. Quickly. Dylan, I said close your Chromebook so you don't get distracted. Close the Chromebook. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Did you write this down? Thank you. Marley, you got it?
Yes.
Okay, Puerto Rico, what about it?
That bad stuff happened in the hurricane.
It didn't happen in the hurricane. These things that were already happening before the hurricane.
Like in 2018. And it happened in, you know, like what's an economy?
Marley, don't. Thomas, please raise your hands. Yes, Thomas. Economy has to do with a lot of things. Economy has to do with jobs. It has to do with money. It has to do with imports of goods, creating goods, selling goods. Okay. Okay, come on. Keep thinking. We can do this. So Puerto Rico was what? It was beautiful before the hurricane, but these aren't telling us that it was beautiful before the hurricane. This is telling us more that no, it didn't happen while the hurricane. No. Yeah, something before the hurricane. So Puerto Rico was blank before Hurricane Maria. What would be that blank? No. Puerto Rico was not destroyed before Hurricane Maria. Okay, but these do not tell us that it was beautiful. Different parts of the story tell us that, but these 3 do not. We're focusing on these 3 text evidence. So Puerto Rico was blank before Hurricane Maria.
It was beautiful.
Okay, I've already said like 3 or 4 times. This does not support that Hurricane Maria was beautiful. Yes, it was. It had a failing economy. Infrastructure was ancient, kind of. And the power grid wasn't upgraded for decades. So that's more than 10 years. More than 20 years. So was it like, so from what this sounds like for the hadn't been upgraded, it sounds like it needed to be upgraded. Here, it sounds like the buildings needed to be rebuilt. And here, it sounds like the economy was struggling. The economy was failing. So Puerto Rico was blank before Hurricane Maria. What do you think? So not beautiful. So what's another word that's opposite of beautiful?
Ugly.
It was ugly. So let's think of a different word.
Horrible.
Horrible. Puerto Rico was horrible before Hurricane Maria.
It was beautiful. Okay. So
It
beautiful.
was okay.
Just destroyed.
Puerto Rico was, what about struggling? Puerto Rico was struggling before Hurricane Maria.
It was struggling.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, for agreeing with me. Struggling. Puerto Rico was struggling before Hurricane Maria. Dylan, write it down. Dylan, did you write it? All of it?
I read it.
Number 4.
What we went.
Okay, got it? Go ahead and turn in on Class Kick if you did it on Class Kick. If you did it on your worksheet, I'm going to come collect it, but if your name is not on your worksheet, I will not know who to give the 100% credit to. 100. Which one did you not do? You did 1 and 2 with us.
I did it on here, really. Yes. So you're yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and close your Chromebooks, please. Go ahead and turn in. That's all our ELA for today.